Hello and welcome to the next part of 1.30 update preview. If you haven't seen the last two update videos, you should definitely check them out, links in description. We have talked about all the map changes, trade company changes, new mechanics such as governing capacity, hegemonies, religious changes, among other things. Today, we are going to look at 4 new major changes coming in the Emperor update. Those are the Mercenaries, the new estates mechanic, Catholicism changes, and HRE changes. It's going to be a meaty update video. Let's start with Mercs. We talked about Mercs briefly in the first video. I mentioned there that the current Mercs are broken, and I have said this in the past many times. Currently the Mercs are really broken and they make the game so much easier, and the main reason they are broken is because they have unlimited manpower. You will see me using them almost all game long, and I get frequent comments both on YouTube and on Twitch stream about it. People argue, why am I using Mercs and wasting ducats while still at 100% manpower? Well, that's because you can get ducats easily with a few clicks, while getting more manpower in game is much harder. All that is going to change in the new update. Firstly, you cannot hire individual Merc regiments. You will have to hire them as companies. It's similar to CK2 or Imperator game if you have played either of those. So you'll have to spend a bit more money to hire the companies, and you can't really decide their composition. Secondly, these Merc companies will have their own manpower pool, which fixes the main problem with current Mercs once and for all. Earlier, the devs mentioned that Mercs won't recover their manpower at all when they are hired, which would make it pretty hard to use them, to be honest, because attrition is a thing in game. Since then, it has been tweaked further, and now the Mercs will recover manpower while hired, but they still have a limited manpower pool, so you will have to keep an eye on it and not just have standing Merc armies all game. The Merc companies you hire can be either local or foreign. The foreign Merc companies will have certain modifiers to them, adding flavor to the Mercs as well, which I fully approve of. Any nation can hire a local Merc company, but the foreign Merc companies will only be available in certain provinces, and you can hire them only if those provinces are in your trade range. The devs have shown some of these foreign Merc companies. There's the Hungarian Black Army, which gets some modifiers and events related to them. There's the Forlorn Hope Company, Dahomey Amazons, and Hessian Jaeger Corps, among others. Apparently there are 100 unique Merc companies, which is amazing. And I'm not getting into the modifiers for these Merc companies here because there's still a chance they will be tweaked further. But the whole idea is that these foreign Merc companies will be slightly better than the local ones. The new Mercs are going to be cheaper compared to what they cost right now, so that would make up for the limited manpower pool to some extent. But I can tell you with certainty that Mercs are nerfed to the ground. Even if you can afford to hire a good foreign Merc company, you will still have to walk them from their province of origin to your battlefields, which means you have already lost some of their precious manpower pool to attrition. And talking of attrition, there will be changes to attrition as well. Seems like they are softer now and you will lose less troops to it. Supply limit is also going up, but we don't know the exact numbers on those changes yet. So clearly these new Mercs are going to change the gameplay significantly. It will be interesting to see how the players adapt to it and how the AI handles these changes. There will be changes to Merc modifiers in game as well. Current modifier of available mercenaries will be changed to Mercenary Manpower modifier. So now admin ideas will have plus 50% Merc manpower instead of plus 25% available Mercs. Some nations will be more powerful when relying on Mercs as well, such as Burgundy with the 50% more Merc manpower idea, and Switzerland is really OP with plus 50% Merc manpower from national idea, another plus 50% Merc manpower from government reform, a minus 15% Merc maintenance, and plus 5% Merc discipline. All these changes are exciting, and I'm looking forward to them as they address one of the most broken mechanics in game right now in my opinion. However, they do come with some concern. My biggest issue with the new Merc changes is that you can't split or merge these Merc companies. So good luck using them for sieges because you will run out of Merc manpower pretty quickly. And although I like the whole Merc manpower pool mechanic, as I think it's taking the Merc mechanics in the right direction, especially since now you can get some Merc manpower modifiers, you won't be able to use them for carpet sieging either because, again, you can't split them. You also won't be able to sync them up with your army as the movement speed might be different when trying to get to an army stack. I think this adds a lot more microing in game, and I've talked about click fatigue before, so as much as I like the changes overall, I'm going to hold out to give my final verdict until I play the game with the Emperor update. There's a small change to run over mechanics as well. If you are familiar with it, Currently, if two armies fighting have a 10-to-1 ratio, the smaller will be instantly stack wiped. This will be no longer the case in the new patch, where the smaller army can survive a 10-to-1 ratio fight if they fill out the combat width. Let's say late game, you have a 400k army stack and you are fighting a 40k army stack. Right now, you would instant stack wipe them, but with the new patch, that won't happen. You will still win the battle and might even stack wipe them depending on rolls and other modifiers, but it won't be a run over. This change is obviously directed towards multiplayer games, as we don't see those kind of army numbers in single player games. The second biggest update and my second favorite update in this new patch is the states change. Anyone who has seen me play a game of EU4 on stream will know that I almost never use estates in the current patch. I know you can get free monarch points from them, but just doing those clicks like clockwork every 20 years doesn't feel fulfilling at all. Most estates don't even have deeper mechanics that tie them to the game, and mostly they feel like a separate thing you just click every few years to get some monarch points. It's pretty uninteresting. But the new estates are going to change everything. And here's the new interface. It looks completely different. You can see the three generic estates here, and then there's the fourth icon, which is the crown land. In the next update, estates won't hold provinces, so you don't have to click on each province anymore. Instead, they will be given a part of the crown land. Crown land is arbitrary, and the proportion of what states get will be dependent on the nation's development rather than number of provinces. You can also increase or decrease this percentage of land by various estate interactions. Moreover, the amount of crown land that is held by the nation itself and not given to estates will have an effect in game. Just like right now, we have bonuses and penalties to estates holding a percentage of land. The percentage of crown land that is owned by the nation will have some modifiers too, and these modifiers are really strong. At 0% crown land control, the nation gets -50 max absolutism, plus 0.2 global autonomy change, plus 1.5 liberty desire from subjects development, and -20% tax modifier. As you can see, these are massive penalties, so you need to keep the crown land under the nation at 20 to 40% at least. As we get above 50% control, we start to get some positive modifiers, and at 100% control, we get plus 15 max absolutism, plus 1 yearly absolutism, plus 20% tax modifier, and -0.05 global autonomy change. These are all scaling modifiers, obviously. And the modifiers do seem a bit strong in either direction, and they might get tweaked further. But I really like that these new estate interactions have a real effect on the gameplay, and we will need to think more about them and how to get the best out of them. The control of crown lands will be affected by conquering new provinces, developing provinces, estate events, and direct interactions with the estates themselves. There are 3 crown land interactions. Sale of titles is where you can give your crown land to an estate in exchange for their loyalty. Seize land is where you can take crown land from an estate. You will get 5% crown land back and a 20% loyalty penalty. And the third one, called Summon the Diet. This one is interesting. It gives 5% loyalty and 10% influence with all estates. It will also fire an event where you have to choose an agenda. This agenda will be a trivial thing that the estates wants you to do, such as building a church. If you complete the agenda, you will get more loyalty from that estate and some bonuses as well. So you can decide which agenda you would like to complete. There will be generic agendas and some specialized ones for unique estates. The current estate interactions that we are used to seeing are now called estate privileges, and they have changed slightly as well. You will get different modifiers from them. However, privileges will also reduce the max absolutism now. So we'll have to think before mindlessly clicking the privileges every few years. It makes sense in the roleplay kind of way, right? We are giving some privileges to the estate, which means lowering the absolute power of the nation itself. So you'll now have to think about the estate's influence and how much crown land they control. It seems now the state's loyalty for ulema and dhimmi will also be affected by mysticism and legalism for Sunni countries. Some nations will also get unique modifiers such as Poland with the unchecked nobility power. And all these estate changes will be part of the base game, which is great, except for the ones that come with specific estates tied to either Dharma or the new Emperor DLC. The main reason I really like these estate changes is that now we will need to think before clicking the estate bonuses. We will need to think of estate loyalty to get the estate bonuses, estate influence, as that will decide what percentage of the new development the states get when we conquer new land, and crown land control, because by the time Age of Absolutism hits, we will want most of the crown land to be controlled by the nation and not estates. It adds a lot more depth to the state mechanic and actually makes them part of the game. I absolutely love it. I'm looking forward to playing different estates and finding out about all new estate interactions that will be available in the new patch. We have talked about changes to Catholicism in the first update video, and now we have more details on it. First of all, there's Curia coffers, a separate bank of money that is collected by the Curia every month from Catholic countries. And how much money a Catholic country will give to the Curia coffers is dependent on how much development is controlled by the clergy estate in that country. And I love it. As I mentioned earlier, I really like how estates are becoming more integrated into the game now. The Curia coffers will be controlled by the Curia controller, and they will be able to use the coffers to get some bonuses. There are 5 interactions. Ecumenical Council, where you can put more money into the Curia coffers to increase your chances of becoming the papal controller. Assigning cardinals, where the Curia controller can give cardinals to a target nation for an amount of the Curia coffers. This will give you some opinion modifier and more influence towards becoming the controller at the next papal election. You can even buy a cardinal for yourself if a province is missing cardinals, but this will increase corruption by 5. Investigate heresy, where the controller can reduce reform desired by 5% by spending Curia money, but this will only delay the reformation for a bit, as this also makes the reform desire grow 10% faster later. Next, for every term, the Curia controller can pick 1 golden bull. Enacting these bulls will cost money from Curia coffers, and the bonus will affect all Catholic countries, which is really interesting. So far, the devs have shown us 6 different bonuses. There's minus 50% Curia power cost, which means it will cost 50% less papal influence to get papal actions, minus 5% dev cost and plus 1 tolerance of heretics, plus 0.5 yearly absolutism, minus 2 unrest in Catholic provinces, and minus 25% drill decay. Enabled crusades after age limit, which I like a lot, as it means Catholicism is more relevant later in game now. There are also bonuses to institution spread, embracement cost, and imperial authority modifiers if Catholic is the official religion of HRE, which I think will play exceptionally well in multiplayer. And finally, you can spend the Curia coffers in activating the Council of Trent. When this is active, all Catholic nations can set their positions as harsh, neutral, or conciliatory to the Reformation. And you will get country modifiers based on that stance. For neutral, you get minus 33% resistance to Reformation centers. For harsh position, you get minus 20 opinion of heretics, plus 25% resistance to Reformation centers, plus 2% missionary strength, and minus 25% institution spread. And for conciliatory position, you get plus 10 opinion of heretics, plus 25% resistance to Reformation centers, plus 25% improved relations, and minus 5% heretic missionary strength. This is already a great change. Now, Reformation and Catholicism are more dynamic, and each nation can affect it in a certain way. Moreover, once the Council of Trent is active, the Curia controller can pick concessions, which costs 2,000 gold from the Curia coffers, and the cost can be reduced by the number of cardinals in countries supporting the stance taken in the concession. There are 4 concessions in total, and each concession has a harsh and a conciliatory stance modifier. And as Curia controller, you can pick either harsh or conciliatory stance. For the first concession, you get plus 1% heretic missionary strength with harsh, and plus 2 tolerance of heretics with conciliatory. For second concession, you get plus 10% true faith institution spread with harsh, and plus 5% institution spread with conciliatory. For third concession, you get plus 10% manpower in true faith provinces with harsh, and plus 5% manpower with conciliatory. And for fourth concession, with harsh, you get minus 10% war score cost versus other religion, and with conciliatory, you get minus 20% Curia power costs. I absolutely love these changes. The Catholicism is getting more flavor, and it will have a more dynamic impact on the game. Plus, the Council of Trent changes means that Catholicism is going to be relevant post-Reformation. There are a couple of more religious changes coming in. The Kingdom of God decision has been changed for Papal State. Currently in game, it just disables Curia, and it's really not advisable to take it. But in the next patch, Kingdom of God will not only change the name from Papal State to Kingdom of God, which I must say calls for a one-tag world conquest. This decision will now not disable Curia, and it will give a new tier 3 government reform. There's a similar change to the Unify Islam decision. Currently, it requires conversion of all provinces, but in the next patch, that requirement is removed, and once you take the decision, the name changes to the Caliphate, and the government changes to a feudal theocracy. And I think we could do some fun things with this, as theocracies are getting a huge buff in the new patch. We also talked a bit about HRE changes in the first update video. Now we have some screenshots and more information on it. Let's start with the new HRE reforms. The reforms are divided into common reforms, decentralized reforms, and centralized reforms. There are 7 common reforms, 5 decentralized, and 5 centralized reforms in total. You start with common reforms, and after taking the 5th common reform, you can then choose to go either decentralized or the centralized way. They are mutually exclusive, so you have to choose one carefully. The centralized reforms are more aligned to what we have currently in game, where you can have a vassal swarm, and eventually form the HRE tag. We already know about those. Decentralized reforms are new and they look interesting. You can get extra free cities, extra elector, more manpower, friendly movement speed, tax income, dev cost, and a new diplomatic interaction, the Reichskrieg. This is a new CB where you can declare a war on another nation and call in the entire Holy Roman Empire. It does cost 25 imperial authority though, which sounds fairly expensive. But in the new patch, there are more modifiers to imperial authority growth, which I think is needed because now we have 12 reforms to pass rather than 8 we currently have in game. You can now also spend 50 imperial authority to revoke a reform. This is in case you want to change from decentralized to centralized or vice versa. Also in the new update, you cannot just get imperial authority by adding provinces. Right now it's a bit cheesy where you can add provinces to get imperial authority, pass a reform, then add more provinces and get more imperial authority. This will change where when a new prince joins the HRE, you get one lump sum of 10 imperial authority. So no more adding one province at a time. This will encourage adding more tax to the empire rather than taking provinces for yourself. And I fully expect to see a lot of Voltaire's nightmare level HRE swarms. There are also new imperial incidents in HRE. These are events that happen in and around HRE where the HRE members will weigh in and the emperor can choose an option. Dev said there are 13 total imperial incidents right now, including the Burgundian inheritance, German peasant war, and Dutch revolts. Every HRE member will weigh in on the issue and the emperor can pick the option they want. They will gain or lose imperial authority depending on how many HRE members support or oppose that option in the imperial incident. So that could be a potential source for more imperial authority generation. Also, the empire will now have 12 free cities, currently it's limited to 8, which will also generate more imperial authority. There is also a new CB, the Force into HRE CB, which is pretty self-explanatory, and you will be able to use it on nations who border the empire if their capital is in the same continent. The devs have also revealed the Papal State and the Italian mission trees, which look great. We now also know there will be 23 new mission trees with the Emperor expansion, along with 15 new mission trees with the new patch. That is a lot of new mission trees. The Papal mission tree looks the most interesting to me from what we have seen so far, so you can get special Swiss Guard Mercs, which are available only to Papal State, and you can even end the schism where every Orthodox country will have an option to flip to Catholic. I love it, and I'm really looking forward to playing as Pope in the next patch. Also, for those who don't follow the Twitch streams, Paradox recently started the Dev Clash again. This is where the EU4 devs play a multiplayer game on stream. It's rather entertaining to watch, but more importantly, they are playing it on the new patch, and so we have been able to see a lot of new features from 1.30 update. We have seen a new mission tree for Sardinia Piedmont along with their new national idea set. They look fairly strong with discipline, manpower modifier, goods produced, A impact, and core creation cost discounts. Similarly, Sicily looks super good with army and naval morale, tech cost, unrest, coring cost, and goods produced modifier. There are also new cultures that we briefly discussed earlier. New cultures of Dalmatian, Slovene, Sorbian, Lower Saxon, and Frisian are seen here. There's also a new institution, industrialization. We don't know anything about it yet, but I'm sure we'll read it in a future dev diary. We have a reformed empire modifier, so it seems now reformed nations will be able to become HRE emperors as well. We also have a new religion of Hussites in Bohemia. It gives infantry compatibility and missionary strength versus heretics, and it seems it uses church power similar to Protestants, although I'm guessing the modifiers will be different. Also, another screenshot showing that Brandenburg can adopt the Hussite religion, so it will be interesting to see how that plays out. For now, we'll just have to wait for future dev diaries. And that is all for this meaty Emperor update video. There is just so much changing in the new patch, so many new mechanics and rework of the old mechanics. It's a lot to take in all at once. And I'll reiterate what I said in the last video. As much as I'm excited to see all these potential changes, I'm reserving my judgment on how good they are until I play the new patch. Because adding new changes is great, but balancing the game with already tons of mechanics in it is a whole different beast. I remain cautiously optimistic. And one last thing, since I know it will be asked in comments, we still don't know when the update comes out. No one knows yet, we don't have a date, so we'll just have to be patient for more dev diaries and for future update from the devs. You can also watch this channel for any future dev diaries because I will be covering them here. I hope you guys had a lot of fun watching this video. Let me know in comments what features are you most excited about and what other features you hope will be discussed in future. I always look forward to hearing from you. You were watching a Radiator's video. Thank you for your time, and I'll see you all in the next one.